Is Gemara Yevamos Daf Kof. All the learning should be an incredible schoshiruch. For Yisrael in the very time of Tzibah, Tzarech Hashem Levizava V'Medeljem and Chaya. They should all find the Shidduchai Goy in a big Karav, as well as learning should be as close for Shlem of Shaliyas and Reveda Emmanuel and Shmuel Mentil and Naftali Sim Mecheles Chavas Shiva Sarah Bluma Bas Mendel Chaim Yeshua Ben Malka Chadvlei Bas Saradina. We're holding on the very top of Daf Kof. We're about 8 lines down. We're in the middle of explaining the nafkamina between the two reasons in which this Kayin, this Evet, this Isha, let's get this right. As the Gemara quoted 3 lines on the top, Isha Sheina again is like Mishum Kinasa. That the reason why an Isha that's Einoy does not get on the granary, on the Garain, is a Kinas. But then the Gemara continued and the Gemara asked, El Isha my time aloi. A regular good old fashioned woman, why doesn't she receive? And the Gemara gave 2 answers. Rav Papa and Ravuna Breder of Yeshua, the 2 answers are being whether it's Mishum Gerusha or whether it is Mishum Yichud. Says the Gemara about 8 lines down, My Beinayu, what's the practical difference between these 2 answers? Beinayu ki dari dimekariv lemasa. In a place that's close to the town. If it's close to the town, where there's not as much of a concern, Mishum Gerusha, Rashi points out. Why? Because everyone knows who this woman is, therefore we're not concerned that someone's going to think that a Gerusha can receive on the Garain. But there's not that many people that hang out there, so there's a concern of Yichud. Inami, Demerchek, Vishrichi, or it's far away, but there's many people hang out over there, so there's no concern of yichud. And parenthetically, we'll point out something that we already spoken about in, I think it was Masechta Sukkah. We wrote about it extensively in our book on yichud. We see from here one of the biggest sides of yichud, that there could be an isser yichud even if you're not in a locked quarters. Over here, seemingly, it doesn't say anywhere that it's inside a house. It could be outside. But if you're in an area that no one is there, that itself could be a form of seclusion, as we see here in the Gemara. And we continue 10 lines down. The first one in line is Inami. Says the Gemara at the end of the Brayso of Ikulan. And all these people, we send Truma to their houses, even if they themselves cannot come pick it up, we deliver it to their house, aside for whom? Aside for one who is Tameh, and a woman, and one who marries a woman that's not a Geneslay. Aval Arel asked the Gemara, one who does not have a bris milah, Mishagrin on lay. We sent to his house, my time, what's the reason? Explains the Gemara, Mishum de honest. It's not his fault. We know what's in Arel. It's not Stam, a person didn't get a bris milah. It's a person who's not able to get a bris milah because his brother died. Machmas Amila. So says the Gemara, it's an Eines. What do you want from him? So therefore, we still allow him to get the Truma via home delivery. But I asked the Gemara, I don't understand. Tamei Nami honest. A Tamei as well was an Eines. He didn't mean to become Tamei. Explains the Gemara, big Yisaid. Hi nafish unsay. Hi loy nafish unsay. Even within the world of an Eines, there's something called an absolute Eines, nafish unsay. That's the case of an Arel. There's a mamish, nothing he could have done. His brother died because of Mila. What do you want from him? And then there's something called line up. It's an Eines. It's unavoidable, but not at what level is it unavoidable. Different levels of unavoidability. That is the 2 terutzim of the Gemara. That is an afkamina, says the Gemara in the 2 cases. Tana Rabbanan, we continue. A slave and a woman does not get chuma b'beis hagranos. But in a place where they do give, there are certain places that had on Hagais that they gave a woman grain at the granary. Says the Gemara, give the woman first. You know why? Because you want to let her leave right away. It's not appropriate for a woman to be hanging out over there. Mike Amar says, what do you mean? Explains the Gemara, Achi Kamar. It's not Truma. Truma we never give to a woman. But in a place you give Meiser Ani to a woman, nicely give to the woman first. My time, Mishom Zelusa, it's degrading, it's embarrassing, it's not befitting for a woman to have to hang out there, and therefore we right away give her and let her leave. Amar Rava, says Rava, based off of the din that we just said, says Rava, originally if a man and a woman came for the entire, you know what I would do? you? Have Sharina Tigra de Gavra Beresha. I thought, says Rava, that I should don the din Torah of the men first. Why? Amina, I said to myself, a man is better. A man is obligated in mitzvahs, and therefore he should come first. But then, said Rava, you see the absolute honesty of the Tanaim, how they can admit their shortcomings. Said Rava, but even the Shamana, when I heard when I heard the din that we just said, when I heard the din that we want a woman to leave right away so she doesn't have the embarrassment, then Sharina Tiko did Sabbaration my time Zalusa. After that, I would do the woman first so they could leave right away. They shouldn't have to have the embarrassment of hanging out in Bezdin. Continues the Gemara, Igdilu Atarayves, quoting the case of the Mishnah that if the children that we're not sure who their parents are grew up and they got mixed together, then he freed them. Says the Gemara, Shecharoi, freeing these kids, freeing these avadim, from the Mishnah, it sounds like Ibai in, Eloi by Eloi. Sounds like it's optional. We're not sure if this kid is an Eved. It sounds like you want to free him. If not, not. But ask the Gemara, why is it only optional? Lisa Shivcha Eino Yachal, Bas Chayrin Eino Yachal. Says the Gemara, but this kid is messed up. He can't get married to anyone. He can't marry a Shivcha because he might be a free man. He can't marry a free man. He might be a Shivcha. Might be an Eved. So why are you allowing this child to stay in his current situation? He's in a limbo land. Amar Rava, you're right. You know, you have to read the Mishnah, Ema, and put into the Mishnah. That we force them, and they have to free each other. And we continue quoting the Mishnah, the Nosel of Chumrei, that we oppose on the Kayhanim, the Chumras of both Kayhanim and of Yisraelim. Explains the Gemara, Lamai Hilchasa. What relevance is this that we have Kayhanim and Yisraelim and we give them both of the Chumras? Amar Abba, Liminchasam, with regard to the Karban, Mincha. Nikmetzes, Kiminchas Yisrael. There's a din of Kimitza, the three fingers like a Mincha of a Yisrael, and Veinoich, but you can't eat it like the mincha of the Kehanim. Explains the Gemara, so what do? You have to take off the kaimis like a Yisrael's carbon, and then you bring it onto the Mizbeach, and then the shirayim, the rest of it, that as well is brought in the Mizbeach like a kain. Asks the Gemara, 1 second, Ikri Khan, we should ask, we should say over here the rule. Anything that the remainder of it goes onto the carbon, it itself cannot be burnt. So ask the Gemara, there's a cloud, there's the aside. You never let it burn both of the kamitza and the rest of the carbon. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Radio Rav Shimon Bazi Demasik Lo Misham Eitzim. No, you know what it means? Doesn't mean you stam burn it. It means you bring it up on the Mizbeach as if it's Eitzim to utilize and aid the fire on the Mizbeach. Explains the Gemara in the last narrow line, Rav Elazar, the Tanya Rav Elazar Aimer. Says Rav Elazar, Lereach nichayach. Says Rav Elazar, we darshin the pasuk that says the reach nichayach yatamalo. Avlatamalo shomeitzim. You're not allowed to bring up both the mincha and the kamitza and the rest of the carbon as a carbon, but l'reach nichayach, that's not allowed. But l'shomeitzim, just to aid the fire, that is yes allowed. Continues the Gemara, Hanich Rav Elazar. Fine, you explained Rav Elazar. El Rabbanan Michael Ameimer says the Gemara Davalik Rav Elazar. Rav Shimon, the Tanya of Rav Shimon, Aimer, HaKoybeis Karban Zlatzma Vashirayim Mispazrin Al Beis Hadeshen. You don't actually burn the Shirayim, you spread them onto the ash heap next to the Mizbeach. Explains the Gemara, Pavilu Rabbanan Lapalik Rav Elazar, Rabbanan are not really arguing Rav Elazar, Rav Shimon. Ella, B'minchas Choyte Shal Kohanim, that's the one time they argue, Tebasai Kravi Yevalacha, Pavilu Rabbanan Moide, if it's not Basai Kravi, even the Rabbanan are going to admit that the appropriate thing is that the Shirayim, the remnants, what do? You put it on the ash heap next to the Mizbeach. And we continue with more cases of confusion as to whom is the child. Says the Mishnah, we know a whole very long and lengthy sugya that we learned in the past, that after a woman's husband dies, before she gets remarried, she has to wait 3 months, the months of Avchana, of differentiation, to determine that if she is to give birth, who is the father of the child. If she doesn't wait 3 months, then we're never going to know. Maybe it's a 9 month from father 1, or maybe it's a 7th month from father 2. She has to wait 3 months. Let's say she doesn't. Then she gets married. And lo and behold, she has a child. So now we have this kid that we're not sure who his father is. Vinase v'yolda v'enyo duam and tishvel rishon and shivla achron. It says the Gemara 2 lines at the bottom, but we don't know what is the status of this child. Havi labanim in a rishon and banim in a shein choltzav lamiyam. And then if subsequently this kid would die, what do we do? So it says the Gemara, if she has other children from both husbands, they have to do chalitza on this suffix that maybe, but they cannot do yibum. And so to eat to them, you would have to chalitza and not yibum. To continues the Gemara as we turn over to Kuf Amid Beis, another case. If there were other brothers from the first or second husband, not from that mother, who he does chalitza to them, or to yibum because he's completely unrelated to them through the father. We know yibum goes to the father. And they in case number 3, one father was a kayin and one was Yisrael. So what happens? This kid that we don't know who his father is, he's allowed to marry a woman that's right to kayin. And we're going to see now his mom is floating between two worlds. With regard to marriage, you can marry someone who's right to the kayin, like a kayin. But he doesn't get malchus because he's not vadei a kayin. That's the side over here. It's a big suffix, so it's somewhere in the middle. He doesn't get chuma, but if he eats, because he's not a vadei kayin, not a vadei Yisrael. And we don't give him food on the granary. If he sells the chuma, he keeps the cash. And he doesn't get a portion in the kache kachim. We don't give him kachim, but we don't take away from him if he takes it miyadai, if he takes it on his own. And he does not have to bring in the Israel. What if he has a bechar? And of course, these are all the dinim that there's a difference between a Yisrael and a kayin. So how do we treat this guy? He has to graze until he gets a mum, and then let's say, continues the Mishnah, let's say both husbands were a kayin, he becomes an ainin to them, because regardless, he's going to be an ainin, but they don't become an ainin to him, because we don't know who's the father. Why do they inherit him? Because he has no other inheritors. So if it goes to the father, now they're both the suffix, so they both take. If he hits or curses either father, he's pater, because he can always say it was the other father. And he works in the Beis Hamikdash during either one's mishmar, but he does not get a portion of the truma during either one. But then he is indeed going to get one portion. So says the Gemara, let's delve a bit into this Mishnah, exactly figuring out what is this case of this child who we're not sure if it's from the first or second father. Explains the Gemara, Davka din that we've seen many times, Yevumi, he first does chalitza, which allows the potential yibum. They're definitely not going to do yibum right away, because you might end up, if you do yibum right away, you might be being over a situation of the Yevama marrying outside without receiving yibum or chalitza. Amar Shmuel comes like Shmuel with sounds like a bit of a random din, but as always, the Gemara in a few moments will tie it all together and show from here how we're going to clear up what exactly is going on in the Mishnah. So Amar Shmuel Asara Kayanim Aimdemu Pirish Achamei, we have 10 Kayanim standing, and one of them separates Ubal, and he sleeps together with a girl, and what happens? And we don't know which Kayan it is. Avalad Shtuki, the kid's a Shtuki. We silence the kid. We don't know who his father is. It's one of the 10 guys. My shtuki, says the Gemara. If we say that it means that we make him be quiet from his father's property, pshita, he doesn't know who his father is. Of course he can't take a Yerusha. Manu, you know what it means that we quiet and we silence him from the din of kahuna. My time, big yisoid, says the Gemara, that when it comes to Kehanim, it's not not enough to know maybe. You have to know bivadai. This is the kid's father in order for him to have a din of a koyin. Maskiv lo Rababa asks Rababa about 15 lines into the Y lines. First word line is miyuchas acharov. Asks Rababa. The same words of the Zarecha Acharecha are used. If you're going to tell me that those words Ari Hazara, the Torah warning you, what was the warning? By Avram Avrinu, says the Gemara, don't marry and have it a shivcha. Why? Because their lineage does not follow yours. Meisvei says the Gemara another similar question. In such a scenario, says the Braisa, that if they don't wait 3 months still, and we've seen this prior, the child is a regular Kayin. He can even be a Kayin Gadol. Ask the Gemara, how could that be? He has to be the Zara's Miyuchas. He knows who his father is. Vileka, says the Gemara, Zara Miyuchas Acharav Dirabanan. Cross Machtav Alma, it's all a din Rabbanan that's pinned on the pasuk. Continues the Gemara, V'chigazor Rabbanan, Bezinos, Benesuin Legazor, and the whole Gezerah of knowing your father is only in a situation of Zinos. In a situation of regular marriage, there was never such a Gezerah. Says the Gemara, Benesuin Legazor Rabbanan, Bezinos Migazor is really such a Gezerah by Exos, Migazor Rabbanan. V'atanan, Mishlai Shaisa Acher, Baila Shaisha Chadashim. Someone doesn't wait to 3 months, and this is, and he gets married, V'yolda, and she gives birth. My acher baila, ilim acher misas baila. What's the case? Says the Gemara. From trying to figure out what the case is, we're going to end up with a big kasha. Says the Gemara, what is the case? If you're going to tell me the first husband died, ema seifa, it's seifa makes no sense. The seifa says he's an item for them, and they're an item for him. So bishlam ahuainin aleya mishkach zabin is doing the sheni the lukudei atzama is the kama. That doesn't mean they're just gathering together of the bones. Elohim, I need a love. Kama. Ha mislay. You just told me he died. V'ela begrusha, says Gemara, you're right. A noob shot. You know what's going on in the Mishnah? It's referring to Gerusha. Says the Gemara, similar kasha macher baila acher get baila. Ema seifa, asked the Gemara. Who ema seifa ein mitamila and maybe in a time in law. Bishla main in a time in law. They don't come to him. Lechomra. Why not? Kol chad v'chad leilma alav b'reiyu. Because each one we're not sure. Are you really the kid? Elo ina mitamila hem. Am I? Why can he become tummy to them? Why not? I understand. El Rishon Litamoy Mimonav Shach, says the Gemara, Yibrayu, if it's a kid, Shaber Kamatamale. Vibar Basro, Shaber Kamatamale, Dechalu. Then, because if it's not the right kid, then it means that he's not a Kohen at all. It means he's illegitimate. If she was really married to the first husband, and now she's with the second guy, and this kid is born, that kid's a Chalul, so it's no big deal anyways. Elolav proves the Raya of his nos. Omayachar Bailachar Bayala means after they were together. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Vikatani Seifa. No, excuse me. And yet the Mishnah says in the Seifa, Oila b'mishvar shalzeh v'shalzeh. Says the Gemara 1 second. It says that he does go up with each of the Mishmaros. Tiyofta d'Shmuel. So frag the Gemara that the Kasha and Shmuel. As Shmuel said, he's possible. Amar Rav Shemaya b'ma'enes, referring to a case of miyun. Asked the Gemara b'ma'enes, Mika Yolda, almost a parenthetical, but a big kasha. A memenes can't give birth. V'atani Rabbi Kamid Rav Nachman. Shalish Nashim Mishameshes b'mayich. We've spoken about this extensively. 3 women are allowed to have relations. B'mayich, the primitive condom. Kitana mubaris b'nika. Why? Kitana shemet isabra v'tamus. We see clearly that Kitana does not become pregnant. Mubaris shemet ase obra santal. B'nika shemet igmar es benav Yevamos. V'ezi Kitana mivas achas esrei Shana, from 11 to 12. Pachas became a Yos, became Mishameres, Mishameshes, Gedarka Vailachas, Diviram Chachamim Aimer, no. Echazu, Mishameres, Gedarka Vailachas, Umenashamayim Yirachim, Ushanam, Hashem, Psayim Hashem. But says the Gemara, regardless, how is there a case over here that this Ketana is having a child? So finally concludes the Gemara, Mishkachas Law. Bekedusha Tayus Chavur Amar Shmuel. Damar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Mishum Rabbi Shmuel. V'hiloi Nitbasa Asura. HaNitbasa Mutares Gemara Kedushin. V'ishcha Acherish Aval Bishaloi Nitbasa Mutares. V'eza Zuzu Kedusha Tayus. Shafilu Ben Amurkav Lak Seva. Even if her son is on her shoulders, still she's able to do Miyan. And that is how the Gemara concludes. And we're going to pick it up from the next Amud in Mir Hashem in the next year.